Many thanks for joining us. Here are the business stories making the rounds at this hour. I am Omobolanle Adishui. The federal government has approved the sum of $2.9 billion for the development of BADAGRY deep sea port in Lagos State. This was disclosed by the Minister of Transport, Muazu Sambo, and that of Federal Capital Territory, Malam Mohammed Bello, on Wednesday in Abuja. Sambo explained that under a build, own, operate, transfer delivery system, the port will be operated by the private sector for 45 years, after which it will be reverted to the government. He noted that the project will generate $53.6 billion in revenue and create about 250,000 jobs, while making Nigeria a maritime hub in West Africa and attracting foreign direct investment, culminating with an enhancement of the well-being of Nigerians. The Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, NCAA, announced on Wednesday that it was carrying out economic and financial audits of 8 of the domestic airlines operating in the country. It said this had become necessary to determine the health conditions of all domestic airlines operating in Nigeria. The Director General, NCAA, Captain Musa Nuhu, told the media that the regulatory body was already carrying out intensive financial and economic audit on at least 3 other indigenous airlines, while the remaining 5 would be done in batches. Following the suspension of the operations of 2 airlines, Dana Air and Aero Contractors, the number of scheduled domestic operators reduced to 8 from 10 less than a month ago. While Aero Contractors voluntarily suspended its operations, NCAA grounded the services of Dana Air following its alleged failure to run safe operations. The remaining 8 scheduled airlines include Air Peace, Arik Air, Max Air, Green Africa, United Nigeria Overland, Azman Air, and Ibom Air. Nuhu, however, did not mention the 3 airlines the regulatory agency was presently conducting economic and financial audits on. And the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, on Wednesday raised Nigeria's crude oil production quota for September 2022 to 1.83 million barrels per day, as Brent, the global benchmark for crude, dropped in price the same day. Data obtained from OPEC show that the 13-member organization increased Nigeria's oil production quota marginally from 1.826 million barrels per day in August to 1.83 million barrels per day in September. This came as industry figures seen in Abuja indicated a drop in the cost of crude oil as Brent fell by 2.3%, shedding $2.33 or 37 cents to close at $98.70 per barrel as of 5:10 p.m. Nigerian time. It was also observed that crude oil grades in the OPEC basket dropped in price, losing $1.94 or 1.82% to close at $104.86 per barrel at 5:13 p.m. Oil prices have stayed above $100 per barrel for months due to several industry concerns such as the war in Ukraine with Russia. However, Nigeria has not benefited much from the price increase because of its persistent inability to meet its monthly oil production quota approved by OPEC. The National Pension Commission, PENCOM, has said pension fund administrators, PFAs, generated a total earning of 125.3 billion naira in the financial year ended 31st December 2021. The total earnings of the PFAs indicate a 14.3% increase when compared with the total income of 109.6 billion naira earned in 2020. This was made known by the Commission in its 2021 annual report obtained by the newspaper. The Commission stated that the total operating expenses amounted to 65.5 billion naira as against 55.2 billion naira recorded in 2020. Gross operating profits, however, rose from 54.7 billion naira in 2020 to 59.5 billion naira in 2021. PENCOM stated, quote, the major source of income for the PFAs was fund management fees, which accounted for over 90% of total income. The PFAs recorded a combined return on assets of 19.6% and a return on equity of 25.4%, indicating that the PFAs sustained their profitability in the year under review. Meanwhile, CPFAs incurred total expenditure of 3.5 billion naira and a net gain of 92.4 million naira for the year ended 31st December 2021, while operating expenses comprised mainly of staff costs, which accounted for over 65% of operating expenses, the Commission disclosed. The budget deficit has risen to at least 30.58 trillion naira in the last 7 years. This is according to data from Budget Implementation Report for the third and fourth quarters of 2015. The 4 quarters of 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, the first 3 quarters of 2021, and the first 4 months of 2022. Interestingly, a budget deficit occurs when expenses exceed revenue. An analysis of the report on the Budget Office of Nigeria's website revealed that Buhari's administration had spent at least 54.98 trillion naira on budget implementation since its inception, but has only financed this spending with 24.3 trillion naira, leaving a deficit of 30.58 trillion naira. A breakdown of some of the expenses revealed that the present administration had spent at least 23.6 trillion naira on personnel costs, pensions, overhead costs, presidential amnesty program, other service-wide votes, and special interventions. Recall the Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank of Nigeria raised concerns over the nation's debt sustainability. It said the federal government's debt profile was worrying and noted that there was a need for it to urgently diversify its revenue base. An analyst has enumerated the factors responsible for Nigeria's shrinking middle class, a category of people whose economic strata falls between the upper class and the working class. A macroeconomist, Olaolu Boboye, listed poor minimum wage, inflation eroding the purchasing power of the average Nigerian, as well as exchange rate concerns as some of the major culprits. Boboye spoke earlier in the day on iBrandTV's Business Breakfast show.
Number one, we think that the wage structure of Nigeria is not reflective of the human capacity that we have in the country. And for context, if you look at it in dollar terms, on an average, on what an average Nigeria is earning per month, if I'm not mistaken, it's below $1,000 on a monthly basis, whereas the minimum wage outside the country in developed markets in some countries is about $3,000 per month. In some other places, some even earn as high as $5,000 to $7,000 on a monthly basis. Now, this wage that is pretty much small and relatively static over the last few years, has eroded the middle class. For additional context, look at the minimum wage in Nigeria today. It's less than 35,000 naira. 35,000 naira, if you go to the market, maybe you buy a bag of rice, and then they change just to get the necessary equipment to cook. And that just gives you an indication of the level of wage that we put ourselves in. Secondly, inflation is eroding the purchasing power of money. Right? When you take the minimum wage in Nigeria as of 5 years ago, a bag of rice was less than 10,000 naira, for instance. If you take that 3,000 naira to the market, you know what it can do. Now, minimum wage has not improved. Inflation is skyrocketing, wiping out the value of money. And then the last is, among other factors, basically, the last is exchange rate concerns. If you look at the fact that Naira continues to fall when you compare it to dollars, it worsens, it increases imported inflation and raises concern in the economy. Nigeria is a bit dollarized because we import a lot and also depends on